Hello, Deanna. Wanted to give you some editing help with this 6-2 drawing. This is what you turned in, and it has a few issues. So I didn't expect you to get everything perfect, because the way they had it dimensioned in the book was not exactly to standard, and then using the out-of-the-box metric dimension style makes it look a little different than what's in the book. And you're learning to use the dimensioning. So I usually take time to show each student how to do this. It's not fully described in the book, and so there is a little bit of a learning curve on dimensioning with a metric drawing. The object itself is pretty much perfect. So as you briefly saw, this is the solution here. So let's begin by adjusting the dimension style of your drawing. And of course you can watch this as much as you need to get your changes made. So let's begin with going to Annotate, and instead of using stuff that you created, I'm going to flip back to here, make that the default. And then let's go to the Style Manager and make some modifications, starting with lines. Now, in metrics, as you may recall, 25.4 millimeters in 1 inch. Okay, so if I take 1/8 inch, for example, is a common value we use in dimensioning setup, and divide that by 25.4, multiply by 25.4, I'm not sure why I did that, 0.125 times 25.4, you have 3.175. so generally I round that to 3.2, and then anything that's a 1/16, it would be 1.6, and so forth. So baseline spacing should be set to 10 millimeters, which is equal to 3/8 roughly. The extension beyond dimension lines is 1/8 of an inch, so that would be 3.2. The offset from origin would be like a 1/16, so that would be 1.6. Okay, so next, symbols and arrows. The arrow size would be 3.2 for 1/8 of an inch. Your center marks, that would be, normally we set that to a 1/16, so 1.6. And the break size, which we're not using, it's usually not 3 millimeters. I'm going to set that to 1.6. And that's all good. Then over in the text, your text style, always set up, and then once you have this style created, you can use it over and over again in the future. So Romans gives the most standard looking drafting standard for text style, so Romans.shx. So we'll apply that, keep the height at 0 so that you have control over it. Then the text height is 1/8 of an inch, so that'd be 3.2. And your scale for the fractions, which we don't have fractions in metric. Offset from dimension line, It should be like a 1/16, and that might need to be adjusted a little bit. Then fit, we'll take the standard options here and here, replacement and fit. The overall scale, and this just comes from experience, if we were to display this drawing on a 8.5 by 11 sheet, 300 millimeters would be a very large part, since if you again use, if we have 300 millimeters and we divide that by 25.4, it's 11.8 inches, almost 12 inches long between the centers. So if we were to put this on a standard sheet, that would not fit. So the scale, which you'll learn a little bit more about that in chapter 7, but your overall scale for this will be 4, because we would put this on a sheet and scale it down to quarter size. So therefore we scale up our features, everything about the dimensioning features, arrows, gaps, text height, to 4. And place text manually is always a little easier to work with, because you can move that text to the proper location or the best location. Primary units would be decimal, and in this case 0 units for precision because it's all whole numbers. And then scale factor for measurement, leave that at 1. We do suppress trailing zeros in metric, which we don't have any, so it's not an issue. Decimal degrees, though, if we're showing any angle, which we're not on this, but always remember to adjust your precision for angular dimensions to at least 1 0, and if it's metric, we suppress the trailing 0. So for decimal degrees, though, since it's not, decimal is, uni or unitless, let's say, it's not, or systemless, degrees are degrees. So a precision of at least one place will prevent you from dimensioning something and thinking it's 60 and it might be actually 59.8. Alright, so all those settings, and you get a little preview of what it might look like, and we've made those changes to ISO 25. And we close. Some of your dimensions were made on ISO 25, it looks like. Let's change the ones that aren't, which would be these that are tiny, and we'll switch those over to ISO 25. Now the 25 represents 2.5. That is, they're using a standard of 2.5 for most of the dimensioning features. And so I've actually kind of changed that. Mine would be ISO-32. Alright, so these are looking pretty good. This one needs to get off of the view, so let's grab that and swing it out here. And then grab the endpoints and turn on my snaps and put it there. Let's see how that looks. Alright. Now, these probably went in with your ortho turned on. So ortho is off. So let's grab this and get that off of the view and swing it down just a little bit. Likewise on this one. Okay, get it off of the view. And they do look a little strange, different than the imperial settings. Also, let's get this off of the view. swing it over here, and then let's get that endpoint to there. And that's good, and that's good, and that's good. Now this is a little too close. Remember, we want like 10 millimeters, so I'll demonstrate 10 millimeters for your first line. No closer than 3/8 or 10 millimeters for your first dimension line. So let me just draw a line, and I don't even know what layer I'm in. I guess I'm in dimensioning layer, and I'll go out here 0 degrees and go 10 millimeters. Okay, so you're good. There's 10 millimeters. Oh, but remember, we are scaling, so I actually have to go out. Let me undo that. I actually have to go out 40. Okay, because we are going to scale this quarter size if we were printing it on a sheet. So that's the first thing you got to get in your mind when you're doing dimensioning is, will this part be scaled on my printed drawing or on the PDF that I create on a 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, and some factor of 8.5 by 11 all the way up to 22 by 34 or something like that. Alright, so line, let's figure out where we're at, and we'll go out here 40. Then I'll just angle down this way, and I created a little marker. Okay, so I can get rid of this piece. Now I know where to move this to. Now you can also just move it to the corner here and then move it 40 millimeters out. Boom. Now that's too close. And let's see if I've got a line under there that I can grab. Nope. Oh, I know where it is. Let's see if I can do it this way. There it is. Don't need that on there. Alright, so we want to move this out a little bit further. Okay, no closer than 5 millimeters. Okay, now let's see. Alright, that's getting pretty close to what we want on scaling and on dimension size and placement. Now this thing down here where we want to dimension, show the center of this arc. So we've got to do that here. The center mark is relatively new to me, and I'm learning how to use it because it used to be embedded over here in just plain old dimensioning. It would be under linear under here, and you could choose it here, but they've moved it out of there and don't really have that command showing. Let's see if they've stuck it under here by any chance. There's center mark. That might be the same as this center mark. Let's just see what it is. Oh, it's dim center. So that's the old one. Select an arc. So it would be this one. And that's the old or former dim center. And it is set up to use the setting we made in the dimension style. Now I put it on the wrong layer. It comes in pieces, you notice. So we have to go in here and pick those pieces. There's there's mine. We're going to adjust it. Alright, so let's go and set it to there's no dimension style. So we'll go over here to our layer. Whoops, is our layers over here? Yes. Okay. We'll go over here and pick center lines. Okay. Now we got to do just a little more tweaking here. this is yours. So I'm going to get rid of the one you had on there formerly. So it creates a center line with the overshoot for you. Now we don't want to overshoot here, so we need to actually shorten this up all the way and turn on my ortho and turn off my O snaps so that I don't hook up it to anything. And I want a slight gap right here. And if there's not enough room, whoops, let's see, that should be something else. Oh, that's the center. Alright, same deal over here. Now, if there's not enough room to show the dash, it's not going to show it, and that is fine. Okay, now we don't need this one, because there's nothing to center on down there, so we'll get rid of that. Okay, and that is how you get it dimensioned. Don't worry too much about these tiny hidden lines right now, but just so you know how that is controlled, LTS, enter, controls the line type scale. And for this large drawing and the line type scale we're using, we want those dashes to be just a little bit larger. So let's try 1.5 and see what that looks like. Yeah, now there's gaps are showing up a little better. Now that has no effect on any of the center lines, center marks that you might have created. Alright, now you notice here, this is just a solid line, but it is on the center line layer. Alright, so the problem with it might be, let's see, proportionate looks pretty good, so we just need to make these a little longer. Let's see if we can get it to show up. Yeah. Then you just stretch it out. It looks a little odd, but it has to show up as a center line. And we can tweak those individually. Alright. Let's just try that. We'll pick both of them and right click, Properties, and we'll go to Line Type Scale, and this is for individual right here, not global. LTS in the Line Type Scale setting by typing LTS is global. This is individual. I want this to be just a little bit smaller, so I'll put 0.75, 75%. Okay, and that tweaks it and gets rid of that line intersecting this and looking a little confusing. Okay, and so those are the changes you need to make, and resubmit it for maximum points. And look how much you've learned. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.